Are you doing a little story or just photos?
The December meeting of the Sedona Fire District Board is now called to order. We'll have a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, a moment of silence to honor the firefighters and police officers and all of those who serve our country who have passed since our last meeting.
Let's take a moment to remember the 11 police officers and 8 firefighters that passed since our last meeting.
Thank you. Well, this is a very special meeting. I guess all meetings somehow feel special, but this is a very special one in that we get to the opportunity to express our appreciation and gratitude to 2 board members who have been phenomenal service to the Sedona Fire District and the board and our community, and to wish them well and to express our gratitude to them. And then to swear in 2 new board members who we're excited to have joining us. Let me begin by talking for a moment about the 2 board members who are leaving us. Let me begin by talking about Janet Jablow. Janet has been on the board for 4 years, and she has truly been a rock on this board for all of her contributions and support. No, it's not an exaggeration, and she's very humble besides. In addition to her support for the fire district and the fire district board, she's a volunteer for Verde Valley Caregivers. She previously was a volunteer for CASA, the court-appointed special advocates for children. She has a background in banking and bookkeeping, and all of that came into play. The compassion, the care, the attention to detail has been a hallmark of Janet's time with us. And Janet, you will be missed. We appreciate all you have done. And so to start the process off, I would like to present you, and I'm going to hope I have this in the right order. Of course I don't. Make these tables a little bigger. So Janet, thank you.
Thank you.
For all of what you have done over the last 4 years, and I know you will keep doing for the Sedona community, so thank you. Miss you.
I'm such a man.
Oh.
Recording.
And I too would like to present your brick. So we started a tradition. It's been at least a decade ago where we've got a patio out by the flagpole, and those that have served on the board get 2 bricks, one to place gently in their yard somewhere, and one that we place at the entrance to our station. So it's a bit heavy, but thank you for your service.
Thank you.
The nature of the brick.
Yeah.
Now, what do you say about someone who has been on the Sedona Fire District Board for 9 years and probably is known better than anyone else other than the chief as being identified with the Sedona Fire District, and that's Dave Soto. Dave retired as the task force commander from the LA City Fire Department, and so he brought to the board all of his expertise in the fire service, but also his passion for Sedona, for the fire service, and for all things mechanical and innovative and different. That defines all the things that Dave has been interested in. For the last 6 years, he's been the chair of the Fire District Board, And I'm personally grateful for the fact that he has, he stepped down in time and let me get my training wheels on early. And believe me, I needed those training wheels. And Dave has been a wonderful mentor and friend. And so Dave, you will be missed deeply. But I know too that you have said that you are going to be staying active in the fire service as chair of the Yavapai County Firewise. And I've heard a rumor that he may occasionally turn up for our meetings. Virginia, put him on a leash. But no, we would welcome you back anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Corey, thank you. So Dave, thank you for your dedicated service on the Sedona Fire District Governing Board. Your commitment to staff and the community is forever appreciated. The best.
Okay, yeah.
I think we color match these to your driveway.
Do.
Thank you very much.
You're
We
welcome.
appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Let me set this back here.
So now I got the opportunity to say my farewell and gratitude. And in just a moment, we're going to take a brief recess, but I wanted to give the opportunity for my other fellow board members, if anyone wanted to say anything about Dave and Janet, that they had the chance to do so. Okay.
Well, I,
The mustache messes up the words.
Janet, it's been a pleasure. You know, we've known each other because we were neighbors for many years, but it's been a pleasure to be with you on the board upon my return and appreciate your eagle eye for editing. Really excellent and has come in handy when we were doing the handbook, yes, and policies. So I'll miss you and want to thank you for the time you've given to keep our community safer. And then Dave, I don't know. It's, you know, I've served with you for a long time and served with you as your clerk when you were chair years ago. And I just always appreciated the dedication you've brought to the position of being a steward, shall we say, of Sedona Fire. And excellent opportunities to collaborate with you. And just we'll miss you. Yeah.
I'll be around.
This is good.
Well, thank you very much.
Did either of you want to say anything?
I wasn't sure who was supposed to or not, so I just wrote up something real brief. Just that it has been an honor to have served on the fire board these past 4 years. This wonderful experience has taught me so much about our personnel and all the diverse jobs that they perform on a daily basis. And thank you, Sedona Fire District personnel, for being well organized, hardworking, and dedicated to protecting and caring for our community. So thank you.
All right. You know, I'll just be real brief. It's been a great ride, you know, 9 years. Met a lot of good people on this board, a lot of good people in this district, on this fire district, and a lot of good people in our community. And it was an honor to serve with them and for them. And you know, we know this day is coming for all of us. And you know, it just seems like it flew by so doggone fast. But we accomplished a lot. What we didn't accomplish, we're still working on, and those things will come about, I have no doubt, only to make this district better. And it's already one of the best. So from our legal advice, Bill, keeping us on a straight and narrow, to the leadership we have from Chief Mazulis, and all your staff, every one of them professional to the nth degree, and it made our job easy. So I still think this is the best board there is in any capacity in any city. And I would put our guys up against anybody. So I'm that proud. So anyway, thank you very much. It's been a good run.
Thank you, Jay. So will in a few minutes swear in two new board members, but in the meantime, we're going to take a brief about 10-minute recess. I see photographs and someone, there's a rumor, there's a piece of cake waiting for everyone. So we will
Do some business here, don't we? Yeah. Here, I'll move.
Time to reconvene and to welcome two new board members. My pleasure to introduce to Sedona the two new Sedona Fire District Governing Board members. Let me begin with Diana Christensen. Diana retired as an executive manager from the city of San Francisco after 29 years of service. So we know she knows about being involved in government agencies, and we're glad of that expertise. And she had many assignments in that role, including being assigned to the Emergency Operations Center and acting as an operations chief and logistics chief for the Human Services Agency. She and her wife Liz moved from Oakland, California to the village of Oak Creek in 2020. And she says that they were attracted to Sedona by its natural beauty, the hiking trails, the warm weather, and the welcoming community. We hope you'll continue to feel welcome because we're very glad you're joining the board, Diana. Since arriving in Sedona, she's been active with a variety of organizations, and we're looking forward to her being active with the governing board. So Diana, welcome. Our other new board member is Lance Waldrop. And Lance has a long career in the Navy, which is near and dear to my heart, and has served his country and also has extensive expertise in motor vehicles, trucks, and associated equipment, both that service, their maintenance and repair. And he's had over 40 years of experience with that. And currently he says he's certified house husband to his wife, Diane, who is working. And he enjoys hiking, assisting other disabled veterans and staying abreast of the newest in automotive technology. So we're glad that that expertise comes to the board as well. So Lance, welcome. So if I could ask Diana and Lance to join the chief, we'll swear you in.
This is the official Yavapai County oath of office. So if you would please raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Lance
I,
Ruble,
Diana Christensen,
Do solemnly swear that I will
do solemnly swear that I will
support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear truth and allegiance to the same,
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of the office of Fire Board Member
the duties of office of Fire Board Member,
according to the best of my ability.
best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, welcome. You gotta come take your seats.
I need it here.
So if you would, Kim needs a signature and then you can take a seat.
Yeah. That's a receipt for the chair. Yeah.
And then.
And
I have one.
Yeah.
goes with you. Don't go over.
Well,
And I need.
Mine too.
Yes, I do. Sorry.
Sorry.
Let you go.
We have to do ours in the rain.
Thank you.
I know where everyone's going.
oh, so welcome, Lance, Diana. We're very glad to have you here. And hopefully you will enjoy being part of this board as much as I have. And I know as Dave and Janet have. So welcome. All right. Chief, do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
We do not.
So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda with the November 19th, 2024 regular and executive session meeting minutes. I would entertain an order, a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Pass. Consent agenda. So our financial director, Gabe Bolger, is out sick, but he is here by Zoom, I understand.
You're up, Gabe.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. You have the November financial report in the packet. Starting off, you'll see from tax levy perspective, we brought in $2.8 million last month. That was about 113,000 under what we had projected for the month. Non-levy revenue came in at 299,694. We were over budget by 42,000 with our ambulance revenue, not only for the month, but year to date, continuing to be the predominant driver for that. On the expense side, personnel expenses were at 1.28 million or under budget by 98,000. Building and land was at 31,861 or under budget by $5,900. Vehicles and equipment was at 41,607 or under budget by $24,000. Communication IT at 55,929 or under budget by 33,000. And managerial at 126,305 or under budget by 5,000. In totality for the month of November, our total expenses were at 1.618 million. I'm sorry, 1.536 million. Or under budget by 167,000. Savings in personnel costs was the, from vacancies was the predominant driver with those positions and their associated benefits. Next slide. Year to date, our revenue is at 13,454,000. That does put us over what we had budgeted through the month of November by 619,000. Property tax collection is still lagging behind a little bit through November, but we only have about $122,000 variance. So not too concerned, just more a function of timing. On our non-levy revenues, those are what's making up the majority of the variance. We are over by 742,000. And both our ambulance revenue, wildland, and investment earnings are what's driving that positive variance. On the expense side, oops, sorry, go back. On the expense side, we're at 9.79 million in total expenses through November. We are under budget by $274,000 in totality. And as you can see, we're under budget across all of our major categories, with the exceptions of buildings and land, is trending over by about $18,000. And that's due to a lot of the deferred maintenance and work that's being done at the facilities through this fiscal year. Next slide. As far as percentage of budget expended, we've expended 43% with 57% remaining. Breakdown on our costs. Personnel is our highest expense at 85% of our total expenses, followed by operations at 7%, managerial at 4%, and communications at 4% as well. And then finally, month over month, we ended the month with 22.4 million total cash on hand. That's an increase of 3.3 million over the prior year. Our other assets did decrease from 25.2 to 24.19. Main thing driving that are annual depreciation expense. And then total liabilities increased from 32.8 to 33.4. And our accruals for payroll that we do at year end for the audit, which Lydia's going to talk about here in a moment, is what was driving that variance from a year over year comparison. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Any questions? No, I think the next we should move to approve the financial report. Do I have a motion to approve the financial report for the month of November?
I move to approve the financial report for the month of November.
I will second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The report's approved. Gabe, thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
So the next piece on here is the audit. And, all right, who is?
Lydia.
Lydia from Beach Fleischman.
Okay. Lydia?
Yes, hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. I do have some slides to show. I don't have the ability to share my screen. Did you want me to share those, or do you guys have that?
If you want a moment, I can give you the ability to.
Perfect. Thank you. And while he's doing that, I'll just introduce ourselves. My name is Lydia Hunter. I'm the principal on the audit engagement. And with me today is DJ Harris. He's the senior on the engagement, and he was up there and he did a lot of the work on the audit. So we're both here today if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, you should be able to share your screen now.
Perfect. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to present our audit results today. This is for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2024. We are required by state statute to communicate either in person or telephonically the results of our audit. But we do think it's really important, and we do appreciate the ability to go through this with you. So some highlights: we are prepared to issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statement. So that is a clean opinion. That is the highest level of opinion that we can provide. And when you see that opinion, you have all of this in your board packet, but the large document you have is the annual comprehensive financial report. That's the document that's 98 pages. In here, on page 11 is the auditor's report. So if you go to the auditor's report, those first two paragraphs are the audit opinion. So if anyone ever asks you, that's the most relevant thing. If they want to know what type of opinion they got, just send them to the audit report, and it's those first two paragraphs. Okay, I'm going to go through today some required communications, some financial information, a little bit about internal controls, and a little bit more on that annual comprehensive financial report.
Lydia, just a quick question.
Yes.
If there's corrections that we see, when do you want those?
That's up to you. If there's corrections, I'll hold off until you guys give me the final approval to issue. So after today, we will need management to send us to sign the representation letter. So we're not ready to issue at this point anyway. We still need that, but I will wait till management tells us you guys are good and have no more suggestions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it is a draft format. So if you guys have any comments or questions, we're happy to change them.
Right.
Okay, so in regards to the required communications, so this is things that we're required as your auditor to communicate with those charged with governance. So accounting policies, obviously, we follow standards, rules, generally accepted accounting principles for the recording the transaction. So management is the one that's responsible for selecting the correct accounting policies to be using, and we express our opinion on whether they use those correctly. We do not believe that there are any transactions that lacked authoritative guidance. We also communicate to you estimates. So estimates are important because if what we estimate doesn't turn out to go as according to plan, then obviously the numbers that we report could be different. So you have you have lots of estimates, but two that are significant that we're communicating with you today. And one would be the allowance for your ambulance receivables. So at June 30, 24, the date of the financial statements, you have a balance in your receivables on the ambulance transports, and how much of that do we actually expect to collect is an estimate. The other estimate in your financial statements is your pension liability. That is all due to all those actuarial assumptions, all that stuff. So that's just a complete estimate in your financial statements. And I'll show you that number in a couple slides. We believe the disclosures in your financial statements are neutral, consistent, and clear. There are no sensitive disclosures that we need to communicate with you today. We had no significant disagreements with management. We had no disagreements with management, but the required language is significant, but we had no disagreements with management. Everyone at the district was great to work with to get our audit done. We do look at compliance with state statutes. The one that's listed here has been around for about 10 years now, and we're required to express whether we are aware of any reason why you're not in compliance with that. And we are not aware of any reason why you're not in compliance with that specific state statute. So our opinion on that is in the separate internal control report that you have. And then I'm going to briefly talk to you a little bit about adjustments. Okay, so I know this might be a little bit hard to see, but basically this just shows the pre-audit balances, so the unaudited numbers that management provided us, and then you can see the final audited numbers. So you can see and get a sense of what type of things we're adjusting in the numbers, and really very little. There's really only two small adjustments here that we made. These three lines, the lease adjustments and the pension adjustments, those we always do for you guys as a non-attest service. The pension adjustments come from annual reports, and the lease adjustments also can be done more regularly, but aren't really a lot of value to putting in the effort to adjust those more than just annually. So we prepare those as a non-attest service for you guys. So we always expect to see these adjustments. So really you just had a couple of small minor adjustments other than those. So no concerns there. All right, so now what I'm going to show you is a summarized statement of net position. And so in the annual comprehensive financial report that you have, it just displays 1 year of data in a little bit more detail than this. So we've instead kind of summarized it and showing you 3 years of data to look at. So you will see your cash position increase from the prior year, and we actually have a separate slide on the cash change. Your other assets is down about $1 million. You'll see it's actually now back in line with 2022. You may remember in 2023, you had a large $1 million grant receivable for the one-time ARPA funding from the state. So that was in the other assets and receivables last year and now has gone away. So back to the more normal level for other assets. Capital assets, that we expect to go down every year as you record depreciation expense. It goes up when you purchase capital assets. You purchased about $530,000 of new capital assets this last year and had about $1 million of depreciation. So hence overall your capital assets decreased. You'll see your total liabilities are basically in line with last year. Your net pension liability only increased about 500,000. So that's good news. This year, all the districts seem to have very different changes in their net pension liability. Usually it's pretty consistent, but this year some had significant changes, some really didn't. So you guys did not have much of an impact in your net pension liability. So good news for you guys that that did not change significantly. Your other liabilities, the other non-current, that's just an increase in your accrued compensated absences. That's what's driving that increase. And then down here in your equity section, your net position is your equity. This unrestricted net position, we are striving to see that be positive. That became negative when all the districts implemented the net pension liability standard. But although it's not positive yet, the trend, you can see the improvement in this line over the last 3 years, and we would expect that to continue. And so I expect you guys to show a positive net position in the very near term. And so that's great news for the district that you guys have almost wiped out that negative number. Okay, and the next slide, this is your summarized statement of activities or your income statement. So you can see your trend in revenue. So your property tax revenue went up. That's up due to assessed valuation and also a slight tax rate increase. You will see here that the grants, as I mentioned, that ARPA grant that you received in 2023, that's what's driving that number. And so no comparable grant in the current year. And investment earnings did go up. It was a good year overall for investment earnings. So revenue base, it increased a little bit, but increased quite a lot if you take into account that you lost the $1 million one-time grant in the current year. And then your operating expenses increased slightly from the prior year. We pull out the pension expense because this number is actuarially determined. It's purely based on what the actuaries tell us the number is. Your actual cash contributions into the pension plan were $3.8 million. So pretty close to the number that they're providing, but what's maybe more relevant to you is how much you're actually putting into the plan every year. And you put $3.8 million in contributions into the plan last year. So you've had 3 consecutive years of positive net income. All right, I have one more slide on numbers, and that's just a summarized cash flow statement. Those last 2 pages I showed you are not on a cash basis, right? So those record revenue when they're earned, regardless of when the cash payment takes place. So we always want to just show you a snapshot of cash because cash may be different than that. And so you will see your cash has continued to increase overall in the last 3 years. But some years we do expect it to decrease. So what we really want to see is this operating activities line be positive. And that means that you're generating positive cash flows from operations, which then you can use to pay down your debt and also to make those significant capital improvements, because some years you're going to have larger numbers than others in your capital acquisitions. Hence, you need to be generating positive cash flows from operations to fund those. So no concern here with your cash flow statement. Okay, before I talk about internal controls, are there any questions on those numbers or anything I said that maybe didn't make sense?
Quite clear.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this next slide, you guys have seen this before, but for your new board members, welcome. You get to hear my little spiel for the first time. But we are required to look at internal controls as part of the audit, and you do have a separate internal control report that we provide. So with internal controls, I'm pleased to report we had no significant deficiencies or no material weaknesses to report to you today. But with that, I do want to point out that part of internal controls is segregation of duties. And that's really when you have multiple people involved in a key transaction cycle, like in the disbursement process or in the cash receipts process. Because the more people that are involved, the more it requires collusion to misappropriate those assets. So the size of the district does limit what we would call perfectly ideal segregation of duties. So we do believe the district segregates duties as best they can with their staff size. So we don't have any recommendations for you or improvements there, but we do want to point out and take this opportunity to tell you as the board that your oversight role is important in the overall control structure of the district, given the size of the district. So, we appreciate that you take your fiduciary role seriously, asking questions, that kind of thing, showing that you're reviewing the financial statements is really important. So we really appreciate your role and want to acknowledge that you guys are doing that on a monthly basis and want to just let you know it is important. And then finally, did just want to talk a little bit about the annual comprehensive financial report. So again, that's this large document that you have. This is the table of contents. You'll see that it's broken into 3 sections: the introductory section, the financial section, and the statistical section. So our audit report is in the financial section, and everything in this financial section we're expressing an opinion on, and that's what we're looking at. And so that's what's required by the GASB in terms of what's supposed to be in your financial statements. You guys go above and beyond as a way to increase transparency and do what's called a full annual comprehensive financial report. That adds the introductory section and the statistical section. We do not express an opinion on those 2 sections. We are just required to read that information and make sure nothing in those sections contradicts what's in the financial section. So I do just want to point that out. It's a huge document, but we are expressing an opinion on the majority of it, page 11 to page 75. But there are some sections of that report that we are not expressing an opinion on. And then with that, I will open it up to any questions.
Questions? Yeah, I think you've done a great job. I think you've rendered us somewhat speechless. There's a small correction, and I'll make sure that the chief's aware of it. It has nothing to do with the numbers. It just has to do with the board terms that are reversed, and we'll get that fixed for you. And otherwise, no questions.
Perfect. Yes, you guys would know that better than me. So I appreciate you looking through it. That means that tells me that you guys looked at the report. So I really appreciate.
Thank you.
So on that note, I would like to make a motion that we approve the 2024 annual comprehensive financial report.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Lance? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on our agenda is discussion and possible action of changing the board meeting days and times to accommodate.
That's me. That item's me.
Okay.
So the quick background on it is over the past 23 years, 24 years I've been here, we've had a variety of board meeting times, and for different reasons it was changed. Secondary to that, we have new board members, and then thirdly, with JVG's district load, I discussed with him, what works, and Gabe indicated third Tuesday is great, and anything after 2 o'clock works well for JVG stuff. So I don't have an opinion on this. I just wanted to open up the dialogue and see if the board had a desire to move up the meetings on the third Tuesday or not. It doesn't matter if not. I just wanted, we've had this conversation infrequently over the years, but with the new board member, just wanted to get feedback and see if 4:30 is still a good time. And I can provide some history to the why if needed.
Well, I think we normally have moved the meetings up a bit with the budget season. So, I mean, I think it's fine. I turn to my fellow board members and say, what are your preferences?
Either's acceptable.
We have besides budget meetings, when we have executive meetings, start an hour early or whatever we determine the executive meeting. So the fact that now we're doing our executive meetings at the end of the meeting, it does, and only starting at 4:30, it does lengthen the amount of time that we go into the evening. So I'd like to see us start sooner.
And from a staff perspective, it's board meeting days. So regardless of what time we started, we'd be ready for it. And as stated, Gabe said anything after 2 would be fine.
I would appreciate going a little bit earlier so that we can get out by the evening, by 6.
I was gonna say 3 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
That works. Gabe's time frame, that moves us up. And that allows for the extra time we'd need during budget and keep us consistent.
Mr. Whittington?
Yes.
We start at 3?
So I will entertain a motion to to keep the same meeting date, but to change the time to 3 o'clock.
I move to change the start time for our board meetings, which occur on every third Tuesday of the month, but to move the time to 3.
I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We have a new start time starting January.
All right.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Over to you.
All right, we will now present a crisp staff report. Chief Cole had to step out with, to help his wife with some stuff. Significant events the past month since the last board meeting. You know, we've, I don't want to kill Buzz's thunder, but we've had some pretty complex EMS calls and gotten some feedback from our crews that it's, some of the recent trainings we've been doing was really beneficial in kind of getting them through the call and we had some really good outcomes.
What, just one example of what made it more complex.
30-foot fall, with traumatic injury and helicopter extrication, cardiac arrest that was a lengthy process of CPR and then did have a positive outcome with a return of spontaneous circulation and patient woke up and it was usually we'll get return of spontaneous circulation, we'll get them to the hospital and there's a period of where they're sedated, for treatment, but this gentleman came back as to oversimplify it and then just some really
Trail call too.
yeah and but it's anecdotal, but the frequency, it just seemed to be like a run of complex medical calls. And it just, again, the feedback from the crews was that a lot of the recent training has really given them more confidence and refresh some things. Other than that, biggest thing we're working on right now is with the recent resignations, we're going to bump up an academy to the spring and not wait till fall to fill these vacancies. And while we could absorb these vacancies, it will definitely lessen our ability to have available staff for wildland assignments and other things going on. So, and again, they're budgeted positions, so we're just going to get 3 more in the queue. And then the mechanic position is entering its final stages of onboarding, and hopefully we'll get news on that very soon. And then we'll be opening up the IT position in January. We decided to wait till after the holidays because of the extensive review process for applications and things. And we want to be timely. And what we're finding is with these different support roles, the market is competitive. And so, we've lost candidates because it was a week to review and get back. So we want to get the information and get back to them immediately. And so we figured after the holidays would be best bet, but that's some of the big stuff going on with what COIL manages. Next slide.
Just
Oh, yeah,
one
any
question.
questions? I forgot that part.
You mentioned the last time we did an academy, or not so much an academy, last time we did a recruit, we had a lot of good candidates, more candidates than positions to fill.
Correct.
Are any of those, do you anticipate any of those will be still in the queue?
We are going to utilize the list we established last fall, and we are hopeful that they didn't all get swooped up. And we do have some information that some of them have not. So I'm confident in the list we have. So
Great, thank you.
next slide.
Hey, Dory, I don't know what happened to it, so. quickly the slide that was beforehand. It's just kind of bigger projects that have been approved or in the hopper to be approved. The Hilton Garden Inn, 176 room hotel in the Village of Oak Creek is in its last stages of approval before permits get issued. So that'll be right on the corner of Jack's Canyon and 179. Basically 4 stories, so one of the bigger buildings that we'll have, and also a restaurant and conference rooms. The Uptown parking garage is under review from the last bit of discipline, so it's looking to have 270 parking spaces, solar EV charging, a PD substation, public restrooms, and it'll be 3 stories as well, 2 above grade and 1 below. This past month was super busy for us. We've had 43 plan reviews and 52 inspections, and then 10 additional re-inspections of those that month.
I'd be interested, I'm just thinking ahead, it would be interesting to see the numbers over, let's say, over the last year by month, how these have changed. I mean, I understand it was a busy month. It just would be interesting to see what the variation is. Maybe next month.
Perfect. One of the other things that we had last month, we talked about the Toys for Tots Battle of the Badges between us and the police department. We are currently trailing them. We've got $2,271 raised, and the police department has $2,861 with a week to go. The fundraising will end the Christmas Eve, so we've both blown our goals out of the water. The goal was $1,500 per, so it's been amazing. And the Stuff the Bus event was the best that they've had since they've been doing that event as well. Toys for Tots was a huge hit this year. We still have a week left for bragging rights, and the prize have yet to be determined between us and PD. So,
and somehow I think I'm hearing a fundraising call. Okay.
Yeah, this QR code.
This
you can
QR
scan it right now, right?
That's my fault. I didn't get that one on here. We'll get the QR codes back out again soon.
Okay.
And then finally, the safety message. Everybody this time of year in general is going to get something that has a battery, largely lithium-ion batteries. So we all have them, our cell phones, watches, computers. Taking care to make sure that we're using the charging cords that came with the devices. Third-party ones are known to cause fires with them. Don't leave them under your bed, on your pillow, or anything underneath, as well as don't leave them plugged in overnight. Charge them during the day. You're not on them overnight, so they should stay charged while you're going through. Keeping the batteries at room temperature. Don't leave them in our car during the winter and summer. And only buy batteries that are designed for the device. Things to watch out for: odor, changing color, too much heat. It's changing shapes, warping, leaking, and any odd noises. So when lithium-ion batteries are getting ready to die, they usually start cracking, and there's an odor that's associated with them too. So just use caution with those. Don't leave them in exit ways. E-scooters are becoming a bigger problem. People leave them in their doorways, getting out of their houses or apartments. So, any questions on safety messages? Go ahead, ma'am.
How can one get rid of them? Where do you put them when you're finished?
So there are recycling centers for them, and I know for some of the smaller ones, like our personal electronics, I believe, and I would have to check, but I think not Home Depot. What is the place? Office Depot? Maybe, is that what it is?
Staples.
Yeah, Staples. A lot of those places will have a battery drop off in the front of them, but recycling centers usually take them.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief Booth. That was seasonal.
Thank you.
Big pie.
Seasonally appropriate. Big pie division.
It's gonna stick.
So quickly back to what Chief Mazulis was talking about. Since the week of Thanksgiving, we had 8 cardiac arrests that we responded to, which for a agency that runs 5,000 calls a year, that's a lot. That's a significant number. And so
Average 2.5 per month.
yeah, it's
year over
2.5
year.
per month. We did 8 in 2 weeks. So, and sadly, several right around the holidays. That is a corollary. That is not causative. It's just a single data point as far as it being around Thanksgiving. And then on we had two different 10-meter plus falls in the same day that were critical backcountry calls too, that they handle. That's our bread and butter situation. Is we're growing accustomed to that being our, it's even hard because that wasn't our core business in the past, and it really is now. So one of those codes this weekend was a trail rescue, and they did I bleed Sedona fire. So of course I'm going to say they did a great job, but they quantitatively did a great job. That same crew was on Bear Mountain, the top, rescuing someone, which is arguably the worst, hardest hike. Beautiful vista. They rescued someone off of there that truly required rescue, and then had the trail rescue code that was a code save, and then had a critical stroke down off the lower loop land that had a helicopter component where we paralyzed that patient so that we could manage their airway for them, and then flew them to Flagstaff. So that was the same crew. Same crew did that all in a single day. So that's that. I wouldn't say that's normal. That is not abnormal, right? There's some distance between normal and abnormal there. So that's all anecdote, but those really happen. So it's an interesting thing. I want to do the code thing is something we need to look at more, because there are also supplies that are specific to a full code that when you're used to getting 3 or 4 a month, 8 in 2 weeks really kind of blows up our supply chain situation too. So I want to look at, see if that's a trend. And obviously as more visitors, these aren't all residents. Some I think half were visitors maybe. And so there's some complexity there when you go to a hotel or a restaurant or the trail or a parking lot versus someone's home to run these calls. That is not unusual in the business, but it's unique to us because we run more of those, because there's just so many visitors here that our system has to respond to. So anyway.
Chief Buzz, I
Yes.
have a question for the cardiac arrest on the trail. I would assume it took a few minutes for our crew to get there. Did people on the trail keep
So
it going?
very high, thank you. Very high quality CPR
Uh-huh.
on scene from bystanders, which
From
is
bystanders. Uh-huh.
a key component. Our crew got there pretty quick. They weren't too far off of a road that they could drive on with the trail rescue, the UTV side-by-side vehicle. So yeah, CPR on scene was really effective on those. CPR saves lives. That's not just a saying. That's the reality of the business. It really does. So on that note, we have 11 new CPR instructors to reinvigorate our public CPR program. Raise your hand. Including Kim.
Oh.
So it's not just ops, but Kim threw her hat in to become one of our instructors. And it's a really great, I mean, CPR is the key, but we're looking at it more as a community health program. I've discussed it a little bit in the past, where larger groups come to us often instead of let's have a class for 1 and 2 people every Saturday, because it's sometimes the numbers that we chase down. It's just not very effective. It's not cost effective, certainly, but we're hitting the hotels, the trail groups, the Sedona Westerners, people like that, Jeep tour companies, the trolley driver people. I'm sorry, that's not what they're called. Transportation folks for City of Sedona have inquired. High school, of course, Sedona PD. And that way we have this mobile force, which is not only mobile, but they're also at the higher density places like the hotels, the shops and things like that. And that way we can have this sort of heart-safe web of people who can deliver CPR out in the public. And when we launch that, it'd be great to have a fire board member CPR day too. So we'll let you guys know. That'd be great. And then you can help spread the word on our behalf. So that'd be really great. All right.
Chief, I
Yes.
noticed you're using CPR, and the last time I trained,
Oh, here we go.
as a nurse, it was CCR.
Yes,
Which is it?
it's both.
Okay.
Yeah, so continuous compression is the gold standard for an adult who arrests. So that's typically what we would teach people. Well, I probably fall prey to what we do both. So cardiopulmonary, which would be us breathing for them also. So our instructors are both, but they can do hands only, the CCR too. So yeah, you are correct. There is a distinction.
Just want to make sure I hadn't gotten outdated.
Nope, you are correct. And CCR is really where the money's at. People live now because of continuous compression. I mean, it's just the truth. It's pretty great. So, okay, a couple other things. I told Ed I had nothing to say. This is always how it goes. So this month, especially with the holidays, for me in my role was pretty much a maintenance month of continue the relationships with the hospital. A lot of meetings with the hospital, Northern Arizona Healthcare, as they have turnover. There's some positive things happening in the Verde Valley with the hospital. I won't get into specifics because that would mess up their stats, but the capability is improving. They want to build trust in their facility and their organization in the Verde Valley, and we have heard that from the highest of the high, and the fruit of that we're seeing because they are adding tertiary care people within NAH, and they're recruiting people to be around the hospital system as well within the communities here. So all these hospitals took a hit in the 2021 era, and they're really trying. They're endeavoring strongly to rebuild that, and so part of that is our relationship with them too, because we are community partners. So that piece we've been working on, which it takes a while to meet with those folks, but it's fruitful. We actually have another meeting in January in this room regarding our relationship with the emergency room here and how to coordinate better. And so it's good things on that front. Also working with our partner agencies with the communication center, the dispatch center, to streamline response plans. Sometimes when we take a step forward in that, there's 2 steps backwards. Because there's so many agencies with so many bosses and so many community needs that are just enough different. But we're finally through, I would say, attrition within those organizations, meeting together well. And we went through every single call type that a call taker in the 911 center can take. And if that made sense to us as responders, the questions they were asking, is that helpful? Is that fruitful? And it was almost 4 hours that all of our agencies in the Verde Valley did that. And that's the first time in our tenure that has been an open avenue for truly translating that service to the instructions that they would give on the ground. So it's a really super helpful. Participated in the Special Olympics softball game, which was super great for the Verde Valley with our Olympic athletes. Chief Mazulis, Chief Booth were there. Chief Booth may or may not have got hit in the head with a bat. She's here with us. We're working on building our captain's promotional process, which will be here in the spring, that many members have been waiting for. Working with our relationship by objective committees. That's the way we work with labor and management here to improve service internally and externally and improve processes. One of being interfacility transfers, backcountry rescue, and then general EMS. Working on the fleet hiring, which took a long time, but we're very confident in our new young candidate, and Mike is very excited to have someone help in there. Also working on continuing outfitting the 2 new engines. Our ambulance will be picked up at early January, so we're working on some of that. We launched 3 new paramedic students, 1 in the month prior, but 1 in November, and then 1 will start at the end of December in 3 different paramedic programs. So we need paramedics here. Paramedics promote a lot of times, so then it takes them kind of out of the queue to actually be true paramedics. The skills and the experience is vital on the engine as those officers, but we need to fill fill them at the bottom because we tend to hire EMTs. Because entry-level folks are typically EMTs. So we're gonna also have 2 prospective candidates to put in the next Yavapai College class, which will be at the end of the summer. So we'll have sort of a staggered rotation and continue that wheel like into perpetuity. I mean, we need medics all the time. So everyone could be a medic around here if we could use them all. So that's a big deal for them. That's a life change. And it's a big deal for us because it invigorates, the whole system helps when people are in that advanced level training. Then we, with JVG's help, finished our CMS audit, which Chief Mazulis and I had never undergone. So that's the Center for Medicare and Medicaid. And they said, hey, guess what? You're up. And we looked at each other and I said, he had my position before. I said, you ever done this? He goes, no. And so that was an exhaustive thing. It was a little while.
Ample notice, but then the data collection phase, when it arrives, then JVG has thankfully provided this extensive multi-page spreadsheet. And we just didn't know at what depths they were gonna inquire.
Yeah, I had no idea that anyway, I think the questions they asked were not relevant to service, but they asked everything. It was very interesting.
Well, a quick example, vehicle mileage, it makes sense, ambulance mileage, but we had to get all the mileage for all the support vehicles. So what does that mean? The mechanic driving around to fix ambulances, is it his mileage? And so it was a lot of clarification so that we didn't have a fraudulent report or misreport because we didn't know what we were reporting. It's a very vague ask. It's a federal.
Yeah, some of the metrics were interesting, to say the least. It's Medicare billing, right? We do not bill for these auxiliary apparatus that are responding. And so they really wanted that to drill down how many and the hours and it was hard to make sense of it to comply well, but we did. So yeah, that's some of the things this past month since the last meeting, I think. Yeah. Ask away if you have questions. I appreciate it.
Sounds like you've been busy.
Yeah, we got a lot going on around here. Yeah. So, it's good stuff though.
Good. Training and development?
Yeah, so Jordan's at the training center. We're between live fire days, so they have a reset day in and they went kind of to one up the other agencies in Liberty Valley. They painted the training center to just because it hadn't been touched in ever. Forever. And so, but real quick, completed our driver's training, annual training plans wrapping up. Everybody's been feverishly pounding keys on the computer. We put up all of our OSHA mandates online, the sexual harassment, the diversity DEI, all the federal mandates that are out there. We put them in an online format, and it's grinding through these classes. Had the aircraft training. And then again, we're planning a bunch of stuff. We got some folks getting pretty close to 6-month review, some operational folks. And then again, Buzz mentioned the Captain's Assessment Center. And for the new board members in the fire service, a captain is in charge of a shift, a station, basically a fire truck and an ambulance. And there'll be, at this station, there are 3 captains, 1 for each shift. And we have a couple extended vacancies because of retirements and then another one coming up. So we have 3 spots to fill. So we do these assessments on a rotating schedule every 3 years. So it'll be captain, engineer, battalion chief, and captain is up. And so come March, we'll have 3 new captains in the seat. So and then updating the captain's position task book. Updated some gym equipment, make sure it's in a ready state and not broken. Getting ready for annual physicals. We do a comprehensive annual physical annually, and it's NFPA 1582 compliant, and I can get you the 100-page document on that if you're interested, but it's very comprehensive. And then Buzz spoke to the relationship by executive, the RBO committees. Jordan's working on a work comp committee to see a correlation between how we do things and what's hurting us. See if we can make improvements, whether it's in the gym, on the hiking trails, you know, you name it. And then the fun part is they partnered with the Mingus Union High School FFA and the charities this month, and we were able to purchase 46 turkeys for the turkey drive, for the Flying High Turkey Drive to feed those in need. So next slide. All right, here is our monthly call summary. Ooh, my eyes are getting blurry. As you can see, year-to-date totals, we're catching up. It's been a pretty busy couple of weeks. And as always, EMS is our winning call type. And then and of course, service calls. Next slide. And then responses by station, this stays pretty flat year over year or month over month, but slight uptick, but nothing unexpected this time of year. Next slide.
Chief, just one question on
Yes.
EMS, and maybe I should ask it for Buzz, but do we have any situations that we would refer to as frequent flyers that are occurring?
Yes, all the time, but not to the frequency of some that we've had in the past. And one thing we do see is we'll have somebody that is I call them hugs, high utilizer group. Somebody's a new onset diabetic, and we'll see an uptick in the frequency of their calls because they're adjusting to their new meds. Or we'll have somebody that has a couple falls, and then our crews will get out there and recognize the frequency is increasing. So then we'll further engage family and resources and say, hey, this is new, or why is this new? Oh, I got this new blood pressure med. Well, you ought to talk to your doctor. And because some people think, because they're told, oh, there's an adjustment period, but adjustment doesn't mean you're falling down the stairs. And so, yeah, but we don't have a quote flagged frequent flyer or anybody that's, yeah.
Thank you.
And then here's our month over month, year over year response data. Again, with the margin of error, I mean, 42 seconds to 38 seconds, dispatches notification time's been really good. Turnout time's gone down a bit, and then travel times are staying pretty consistent. And then again, my favorite slide is the that I like to see is the ambulance, the median total ambulance road time. That's if we get an EMS call, how long that ambulance is out, and it's it's down about 4 minutes, but that's again the margin of error on that. If we start seeing those increase, that's gonna inform us. And we're looking at some data sets right now that, for example, Buzz and I have had conversations with the hospital. The zip codes of those we interfacility transport to Cottonwood have changed. And what was it, 8,500 patients SEC saw last year?
That's what they said, which
Yeah.
is this little ER.
But what we're seeing is the Verde Valley zip codes are increasing to our ER because they know that the wait time is much reduced compared to Cottonwood. And then there's some conversations at this ER about expanding it to more beds. So that will definitely be something that informs our decisions potentially. So
Be a second doctor, possibly,
They-
second DR doc.
they added security. They haven't had security.
Yeah, they're slowly ramping it up.
I could see the potential for probably, I mean, the span of control for 7 patients with 2 nurses and a doc, that's still a pretty good span of control. But I would imagine they would probably evaluate using a mid-level provider like a nurse practitioner or a PA too. But those are conceptual ideas. They're just looking at their total system. And as they're evaluating a standalone ER in the Camp Verde area, they're looking at everything. They're looking at added beds to the ER in Cottonwood, and they're really getting back to some of the ideas that they were looking at 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah, they're trying to control it. They call it system leakage because they want people to be, as a community health provider, like the community hospital, they want to keep you. They don't want to ship you out. They want to provide for you. And so the leakage is a definite trajectory with the trust, right? So,
Yeah.
so they're trying to improve capacity. One of the pieces, if I may, the more patients that come here from outside areas, it adds a burden to us and our responders because that's an interfacility transfer increase. Right? They would have gone to a hospital that can actually house them. There are no overnight beds. There's actually no long-term beds. So there's no food here. There's none of that. And so they cannot hold people for a very long time at this ER. So we are the interfacility, one of, but the primary interfacility transfer provider. And those are firefighters and EMTs and paramedics that do that. So
And
we're
this
trying to
number,
balance those things.
this number you're looking at is the one you're keeping your eye on to.
One of many, but total ambulance road time translates to, if we're having more interfacilities, it's gonna increase that road time. And what that means is staffing 4 ambulances in district, one call takes an ambulance out for an hour and a half. So if that increases to 2.5 hours, what does that mean for the rest of our service delivery? And we'll just keep, but as you can see, year over year, it hasn't increased, but there are things changing.
And, just to comment on the response times, they're on every second counts, and these are all improved response times over last year. So it's really excellent.
We've got some thank yous and some donations. It's awesome. And then if there aren't any questions, we can move on to the next item.
Okay, so we have in front of us a possible approval for the purchase of a fleet 2024 Suburban replacement for the IT manager from Chapman's Chevrolet and a not to exceed of 70,000. Chief, do you want to say anything to that?
Chief Lacassi's got
Okay.
all the
sorry.
goods.
Yeah, this is for Bob, IT manager. He takes this, just a little background, he takes this vehicle everywhere. So it's his at-home vehicle, but he also the reason it's a Suburban is the question that comes up sometimes. He secures a lot of his metering, monitoring things for the server rooms, the tower sites, all that is within this vehicle. And then he responds directly from home in it. He responds to all of our tower sites, which are on all of the mountains that you see. And so he drives this thing. It's 211,000 miles, and those are a lot of dirt road miles. That is a hard. It needs to either come in and get overhauled, or he needs a new one, and it's just time for a new one. The price is it's for a base model Chevy or Ford vehicle, like one of the main markets. They're not easy to get at the 1Z, 2Z level. Pickup trucks you can get, a Suburban is an LS Suburban. I imagine Mr. Waldrop can attest. That's not a ready thing that they can give you a VIN number on. So Chapman has one with an actual VIN number designated to us. Should you choose to purchase it? The other prices came in definitely much higher than this price. It's commensurate with, help me with the terminology.
State contract.
Like a state contract price, though it is not. The nearest price on a verbal telephone call, it was 78,000, but it was one version. It wasn't the LS. It was the one above the LS.
The leather seat.
So there is, yeah, it had, which we do not want leather, all that stuff anyway. So there's not much else to it. It replaces a vehicle. What we do with the vehicle, it will probably be surplus and we would sell it, I imagine, because we don't want to probably take it in-house and fix it and then own the future repairs on it. But Mike would help us with that decision within the fleet as the mechanic. Yeah, entertain any questions. It's pretty simple deal.
So do you have any questions?
Chief, I knew it. You couldn't
Well,
contain
It's
yourself.
not my job to get into the weeds and I won't do it.
Yeah.
Does that include the upfit? Because I know he runs a winch and a bumper and all.
The, no. So there is, some of that will transfer over.
Something you'll like. do
Yeah, and
in-house.
Bob will do the radio himself. He just will add the radio. The rest, Mike, we would do that in-house.
Perfect.
We'll
Okay.
take his winch off, put it on there, tires and things like that. We would just take across the street.
Awesome.
Other questions, comments?
Just a comment that this looks pretty important to do. We don't want,
It is a big deal
we
to
don't
do
want
that.
Bob
Yeah.
stranded on a.
It's 6 months in the making.
Yeah, it takes.
I learned this time around that, because we always typically buy Ford trucks, and those are all over state. Not every vehicle that is available for purchase falls into state contract pricing. So some vehicles just, they don't enter state contract because they're not. And this took over 6 months to find because, to Buzz's point, the High Country, I think, is the high-end Chevy model that they're selling them a lot, so they're making them a lot. And the base models, just, there wasn't a market for them. And so it was difficult to find it.
I mean, it's one thing when GSA has a stock of them, but we're not the federal government.
No.
Onesies, twosies is hard.
I'm surprised and pleased that you're able to find the base model.
Yeah.
By the way, it's not a base model, it's loaded. It has everything.
Yeah.
It really is, but it's the one that, like, we don't want him poking a screwdriver through the leather. You know, so it's not that high end.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Chief.
So unless there are other questions, I will actually make a motion that we approve the BAC for purchase of the Fleet 2024 Suburban replacement for our IT manager from Chapman's Chevrolet at a price of not to exceed $70,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Tell Bob he's got a new car.
Boys will be so excited. Merry Christmas, Bob. He's gonna be so excited.
Okay, so we have been notified by our wonderful attorney of a price increase to cover the cost of Mr. Whittington's service as attorney to the fire board. Now, when this was placed on the agenda, we've been notified it was to take effect in January. Since then, Mr. Whittington has very kindly said, wait a second, we realize that this will impact your budget and we should be in alignment with the budget cycle. So he has said that this will take place with the start of the new fiscal year on July 1. So I'm not sure whether we want to deal with this right now or as we come closer to the time. But the one thing that I had discussed, I mentioned briefly to Mr. Whittington and to the chief, is that as we're going into the budget cycle, it seems to me a time that we should be reviewing all of our professional services arrangements with all of our contractors. This is a good time to do it. So my thought would be, unless Mr. Whittington, you think I'm wrong in doing this, that I would suggest we table this for future discussion.
And, fresh off the audit, thankfully, with our systems in place, it's good, but every year with the audit, I'm always like, okay, are we doing everything right? Is everything working? And I do not recall when we evaluated professional services across the board. And so if that's the direction, right, we can put it on the budget planning.
Well, I just think, I know in the time that I've been here, which isn't all that long, but in the 3 years I've been here, we haven't. And my understanding was it hadn't been done for a while. So it's not a reflection on anyone at all. I just think it's good business practice to review your professional services agreements periodically to make sure that everything is in alignment.
Well, and we do it with a lot of processes. Buzz mentioned we've got folks in 3 different paramedic programs for a decade. we were locked into a program and we're evaluating different programs because the landscape's changed. So I kind of envision this process like that, where you just keep it fresh, if you will.
Can I speak to the issue?
You certainly can.
I'm in full support of whatever you want to do. I want to share a little bit of history with you. I think every organization that we represent has occasionally, they have to look and say, hey, are we getting good service and getting good price? And I think that's totally legitimate and you ought to do it. We're very confident that we do both of those things, but I think you'd be remiss if you never asked the question. Because we become part of the family, I've known so many of you for so many years, it's easy to get lax and forget that not only are we part of the family, but we're paid vendors in a way, and you don't want to ever forget that. So we have two things that we hope we always accomplish, and that is performance is good and everyone's happy, and the rates are below market. And they are. I mean, we don't do this without some paying attention to what's going on in the market, so we know that we are below market. I kind of ignore the hourly stuff. I let staff do that, and I got chewed out because it's been 10 years, and they go, "You ever going to do anything about this?" That kind of stuff. And so I asked our bookkeeper to check and see what people are charging out there, and ask her to go ahead and pick a number that made some sense. But we're extremely sensitive to input. And that's why after we did this, I got a call from a chief that said, we're right in the middle of a budget year. Couldn't you have done this in July? And it made all sorts of sense to me. I hadn't thought about it. I apologized. And so I called you guys right away and said, let's wait till July and do this in a reasonable way. We also pay careful attention to any time somebody says, I need better service. If Dory calls or Jason calls or the chief, we get on it and we put more bodies on it and get the job done. We represent the board, but the board has charged us with the responsibility of keeping these people happy. And we intend to do that. So whatever you decide in terms of doing what you need to do your job, I fully support it.
Well, Bill, thank you. And believe me, as I said, this is not a reflection on anyone. It's from me, the business background. I believe in reviewing these agreements. And we are all grateful for the support that you provide. And I in particular, as a new board chair, grateful for the support you provided. But I think if we temporarily table this particular action, we'll bring it back. But in the meantime, we can take a look and know that we appreciate deeply the support you provide to us.
I appreciate the relationship. You got the best management on the planet, and you're, I think, probably the top fire board in the state. So.
We like to hear that. Yeah.
Who doesn't?
It's even stronger. Yes. Okay. Enough patting ourselves on the back.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the board members, you have in your packet a possible action, the draft of the 2025 board meeting dates. So I'd urge you to take a quick look at that. And if you're comfortable with the dates, then what I would like to do is approve these.
I have a question on the first two, the January 21st and the February 18th. In parentheses, it says the day before is an admin holiday. Does that make it difficult for staff? Are you looking to choose another one because you're off the day before we meet?
It doesn't affect me at all, because I always send the packets out the Thursday.
And
Yeah, Chief Mazulis may say something different. I doubt it.
You guys.
We have to have our stuff in to the boss a week ahead of time. So we're
Okay.
ready. We may pre-meet and discuss what's going on, but we can do that day of still.
Okay.
And if it's a big one, we would have already been talking about it prior to anything becoming in the packet, going into the packet
I
anyway.
see.
So unless it says something different, I really doubt it.
admin is okay with this, and I assume chief should we
Should be
wait for
right
him
back.
to come back?
Yeah, he'd be
Yeah.
right back.
Very good.
Well, any other concerns from the board?
No.
Oh, wait, that one's my birthday. Never mind.
What are the dates of the training in January?
15th through the 17th.
So we would be meeting the following week after the training.
If they,
And that
the
might be.
the January meeting is the 22nd, we're off the 21st. The numbers might be wrong.
21st.
Yeah, so we're off the 20th because of a holiday. That's not a problem for you. See any problem with that? Being off, not being at work the day before the meeting?
No.
So it sounds
We
like,
didn't either, so just want to make sure.
so it sounds like everyone is comfortable with the dates. So on that, I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed 2025 board meeting dates.
Madam Chair, I'd like to put forward said motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. So we have our board meeting dates. I do urge you to put them in your calendar now.
Yeah.
All of us.
Especially
Give them
me.
to your
Yeah,
spouses.
Scott, we'll send your wife an email.
Yeah.
Put it on the fridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. What day is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So one last quick thing. Rather than do what we've done in the past, which has been board member updates on all the things that they've done since the last board meeting, which has tended to be a little repetitive since we frequently all do many of the same things. What I've suggested is a change to something I call board member updates. And the idea is, and it's also ideas for future meetings. So by board member, if you have something you would like to update the board on, this is the opportunity to do it. And if you have something that you want to see at a future meeting that you haven't already mentioned, this is the time to bring it up. So I would open the floor to the board. Are there any things that you want to share or that you want to bring up for future meetings?
May I interject? So I sit on a school board and I also sit on the work comp board. Two things I knew little to nothing about. And I've now learned how schools get funded over the past few years and then how workers' compensation works. So kind of my thought with this is, we just got the audit report and the financials and they said multiple times the pension liability. And I guess for me and staff, if something like that, that's just the example I have, but if something like that pops up with one of our financial reports or something, you're like, I don't really know what the heck they're talking about. You can either, with our one-on-ones, mention it to me and I can put something together to present to the board. Or the idea with this, in my mind, was just if you have something that's getting you and you want to know more about it, if you presented it in the board meeting, the other board members could feed into that, or, oh yeah, I'd like to know more about that too. So it's just a thought.
Great. So any,
I've got one.
Great.
We've got some responsibility for approving checks as they happen, for lack of a better word, disbursements.
yes.
I know nothing about how that works in terms of our responsibilities. And we also have those dates to look at.
Yes, there is a schedule of bill pay dates that were in the binder that you were
Yes.
given. So I think there will be a training, we'll need to do a training on bill pay. And essentially, I'm going to abbreviate this.
Yeah.
There's two things that you're on the hook for on your week. And that is, number one, there are sometimes checks that need to be signed that are physical checks. And that means you will need to come into to Station 1 and physically sign those checks. You're on the hook that week. And secondly, more importantly, on Thursday, before 3:00, the checks for the week are done and in bill pay. And you will be taught how to do bill pay. I'll put in a plug because I do bill pay on my phone, which I think is the easiest way to do it, but not everybody agrees with that. But so anyway, you need to do bill pay, and it's a system, and you'll learn how to do that.
Okay.
And the only catch on it is, and Heidi Robinson will send you a text on Thursday morning to remind you it's your day and that you need to do bills. And the trick is to do it before 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like has happened to me upon occasion, as I got into bed at night and realized I hadn't done the bills, I was standing in the kitchen doing the bills on my phone at 11 o'clock at night. But the idea is to do them before 5.
Once you navigate the app, there's a lot of resources on that, but the one I go to is my to-do list, and then it populates and you're like, okay. It's pretty simple once you learn the app.
Just to, the thing that slowed me down when I became a board member, it was several months before I got authorized by, Sarah was a part of doing that from JVC. So that's just an important piece. Before you can do anything, you have to get authorized.
We'll make sure that's.
Yeah, we
expedited.
do that, so.
Gotta go to the bank.
Does that, I don't know if that makes you feel
Certainly- Yeah,
comfortable.
that certainly helps me understand the overall idea of it. But it is something I think that'll come up for us to talk about probably.
Yes, and also know that you have backup. So,
Good.
yeah.
You're not-
Okay. Any other things that the board members want to raise?
I don't have anything.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mike. He assisted the police department with something of a difficult diagnostic problem. As far as I know, that might have been the first time that the two agencies came together kind of in a tactical situation. And his eyes caught the problem and his expertise failed it. So I was very impressed, and just want to pass it on to him.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
Suggested that perhaps the deputy chief over at PD, do just a letter of appreciation.
Cool, I appreciate that. I'll pass it on for sure. He's a quiet, unsung hero, man. That guy just grinds it out. So thanks.
I got to tell a story.
Okay. All right.
So
Yay.
a patrol car had an intermittent odor of Krylon paint and a wisping sound. And long story short is Mike found the can of paint that had hidden under all the stuff that's in a police car that was intermittently hitting something and spraying, and they could not figure it out. And so
The PD tech was doing a light while his eyeballs were triangulating the position.
yeah,
I have that as firsthand knowledge.
it was pretty cool.
But it was serious because the officer was experiencing symptoms of nausea, and he had to
Yeah.
switch vehicles quickly. And this is, a critical situation.
One more quick one. I know this is Chris, but this is Mike. So one day I went into the shop early morning and he says, "Did you see the police here?" And we had some stuff going on. So I immediately went to, "Oh no." And I said, "No, is everything okay?" He says, "Well, I have this special tool that adjusts their spotlight. They don't have one." So I told him to come in before work and adjust it. I said, "Don't ever do that again." And he says, "What?" I said, "Come in before work." I was like, if a police car needs a quick 5-minute adjustment, have them come in during work hours, but that's just Mike. So.
Great.
Now he's gonna have a helper.
So Corey, you anything?
No, thank you.
All right, well, the only thing I'll add to the board remembered last month, we passed a motion around the grant for the Arizona Community Foundation. It went in, it ended up at 9,900. And so we hope to hear from on that in January. And the only other thing that I will bring up is just a slight change in process that was actually on this agenda, but will be implemented in the future by the chair. And that is at the start of the meeting to do a roll call. So that each member of the board will just, I'm present. And the reason for that is because on the the audio recordings, it makes it easier for people to know when, who is speaking at various different times. So we wanted to do it, but I keep jumping over it. And I thought, let's, new board, time to start it. Great. So unless there's anything else, it's time to go into executive session.
Go home. Oh, you guys go home. You're off the hook.
So
Yeah, you.
we need a vote, board members, to go into executive session for real estate matters pursuant to ARS 338.431.03A7 and legal advice pursuant to ARS 38.431.03A3 regarding Station 4 and a possible transaction with the city of Sedona, Ray Same, and consideration of other properties. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
All in favor? We're back in public session. We met in executive session for communication with the chief about the meeting with the city of Sedona and for legal advice on the real estate considerations related thereto. There was no particular direction coming out of that, but all of the conversation that we needed has taken place. So unless there is something else, we're going to adjourn the meeting.